Yes.
and the other is a contract from America.
Okay?
And I'd like you to consider reading them and
Yes.
if you agree, signing them.
Thank you, sir. Is there a way to get these back to you? You have
They're
the
both
address. Okay.
online, right?
Great. And I know we have just 5 minutes for questions. I'd like to take as many as I could and just be very, very brief in my answers. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, since 53 million babies have been aborted in the United States since 1973, what will you do to help protect the unborn?
My family and I are proudly pro-life, and it was actually in the 90s, a moment that you probably remember, when partial birth and abortion was going on. I was always pro-life at that moment, but at that moment it shook my conscience, and I couldn't believe this was going on in America. I said, someone please pinch me. I worked for a congressman who was very active in pro-life issues, and as you know, a lot of it comes down to Washington taxpayer funding for abortion, which was one of the heartbreaking things about this health care bill. For the first time in 35 years, Americans are now forced to subsidize abortion and other Americans' health care. So I will vote pro-life in Washington, but I'll also try to encourage colleagues to do the same. My old boss, Congressman Smith, always said one of the best advocates you can have, and I can see, ma'am, from your advocacy that this has been very important to you. I'm sure you've lobbied elected officials. One of the best lobbyists you can have is one right there in Washington. And so I'll work with fellow members of Congress, but I also think that the work is up to individual Americans as well to convince others that there's other alternatives to abortion and to try to raise those alternatives as well. But I will vote pro-life. It's something that's very important to me. I'll encourage colleagues to do the same. And again, you underscore a point that all rights stem from this basic right here. So thank you for your question.
Here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, how will you address special interests while serving for the people?
Yes, I'm pushing for term limits. I think that's part of it. To try to get term limits is something that was talked about in 1994. If we get term limits, we can curtail some of the power of the incumbency. The special interests are still going to be there, but I think if we can keep this movement going, it's incredibly important as well. People say, is Tea Party, is it Republican, is it conservative? Look, I can tell you as an American history teacher, every great movement out there, whether it was women's voting rights, civil rights, the abolitionist movement, they impacted both parties. And I think if this movement keeps going and saying enough of career politicians, enough of out-of-control spending, I'm not saying all Democrats are going to catch on to those ideas, but they'll start catching up and saying, hey, we're going to have to start talking about these principles as well. And so I think the movement is incredibly important for holding politicians accountable. I'm thrilled that people are following more and more than ever. You know, Cheryl and Randy, the meetup groups, this, that, the other. We got to hold our politicians accountable, and I think term limits is a good first step. Other questions? Yes, sir.
How can you keep business from moving jobs overseas to the low-wage countries?
Yeah, very good question. You know, if you go to the Binghamton area where I'm from, and then the Hudson Valley here, we're both IBM towns. Those IBM jobs are mostly gone. We lost 25,000 IBM jobs in Binghamton. Corporate tax rate, mid-40 percentile on corporations in New York State. A friend of mine went and took a job at IBM Ireland, 10% corporate tax rate. So I think that's one thing, lowering the taxes. But something that upsets me, and this came up during the Iraq War, is why are U.S. government contracts, when the U.S. government is spending money, and they're spending way too much, why are those contracts going to foreign companies? Why, when we had troops risking their lives over in Iraq, why was the company that was doing the supplies, the food, and others, why was it a French company? So look, if the government is going to be spending money, whether it's the U.S. government or New York State, it should be U.S. and local businesses that we're contracting with. So those are the two. Trade is an issue. Hey, it's going to help our businesses to export jobs, but I'll tell you someone that I plan on going toe-to-toe with is China. And I did it as a congressional aide, but they are dumping products in here. They've got a terrible human rights record. They're undermining our currency. They're buying up our currency, and it's time to get tough with China.
Yep.
Columnist Mark Stein warns of rapidly reaching a tip-over point
Yeah.
where public sector employees and those receiving entitlements outnumber those in the private sector who are contributing to and paying for those jobs and entitlements. What are your plans to slow down and/or reverse that trend?
Yeah, incredibly important issue. And if you look at the stimulus, they were saying, oh, we got it under $800 billion, and we're going to create or save 2 million jobs. If you look at it, it was about $170,000 per job. And so that's fuzzy math. It's not just fuzzy math, it just shows the waste in government. I think my time is up here, but there's a lot of waste in government. We got to lift up that entrepreneurial spirit and get the private sector going again and keep cutting back on government jobs. I think that's my time, right?
Thank you.